Okay, everybody, welcome. Hi. I think it's a good sign when everybody's got their head down now. I used to think it was a bad sign that you weren't paying attention, but now I think it means that you're telling everybody that you're in our session and come and join you, right? My name is Lisa Riolo. I am a co-founder of Impact Radius, and I am super excited about this panel that we have assembled here today. I'm going to let each individual introduce themselves and give you a little bit about their background, starting to my direct right here with Steph.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Lichtenstein. A lot of you might know me on Twitter as MicroSteph, and my company is MechMedia Marketing. Basically, we run outsourced social media management for affiliate marketers.
I'm Lisa Picarille, and I'm an online consultant. I consult to people about content. Also writing a book with Jim Kukral that'll be coming out in the summer of next year, and I teach affiliate marketing classes for the University of San Francisco online.
And my name is Scott Jangro, and I am an affiliate. I've been in the industry for I guess 11, 12 years now. Started on the network side of things, worked at BeFree and Commission Junction for a little while, and then in '04 switched sides and became a publisher. And my company publishes niche retail community sites. So we produce small websites that are focused on a particular niche, form a community of active people who enjoy talking about that particular thing, maybe shoes, costumes, mostly retail focused.
Good. So what we're going to do is we've got this panel session. We have some slides to help guide the conversation. We're also interested in answering questions. And so I believe on this next slide, if I do it right, did I do it right? No responses received, so I think we're doing it right. Okay, so up on the screen here, we're doing a little bit different type of format for the Q&A. For those of you who have attended affiliate summits in the past, we used to run around and throw microphones at you folks, and now I think to encourage participation and make it a little bit easier for us and for me personally, what we would like you to do is either to text the Affiliate Summit West 11 abbreviation ASW 117C, and your message goes to 22333. So you put in 22333 as the address, then you put that keyword in there, and then you put your question, and it should appear on the screen at the end after our slides appear. But if all else fails, in spite of my hard hearing, you can also raise your hand if you're encountering technical difficulties, and we'll still we'll go back to the old school way, and then I'll try to repeat the question back to the audience so you can all hear, those of you in the back, and then we'll try to answer those questions. If you have someone specific that you wanted to ask that question to, or to the panel in general, if it's someone specific, go ahead and put their at, like for example, at MicroSteph, if you wanted to address the question to Steph. And then we'll take a stab at it. So anyway, we're excited. The topic for today is profit from trend spotting. And we believe that this is an important skill really for the money-making component of affiliate marketing. Certainly can drive your content, and everyone here has a different perspective on that. And also just a general overall interest of looking at what's going on around and looking for patterns and trends that occur and how you might leverage that and monetize it. So that was really the inspiration for today. We're going to get started right off the bat with, whoops, I did it wrong. Okay, so we already did the introduction to everyone. So we'll hit right into the agenda. We're going to cover three major components to this topic. The first one being the types of trends that we see. There's a tendency, I think, a lot of times, and especially when you go to other panels where you are listening in on this topic, that it tends to fall right into the trends within pop culture. And the goal here is to expose you to the idea that there's a lot of other trends and categories and types that might be out there. Then how to spot trends, really looking at who are trend setters, and then also, or what are trend setters, and then also how to turn around and monetize that once you've identified one. So that's the three basic areas that we're going to cover today. Oops, see, I keep going the wrong way. I want to go up instead of down. So, do we want to just have you guys stay seated and like kind of take the topics? Yeah. So let's start with the first one. So Lisa Picarille, you want to start with this one, and then I'll hit the arrow for you.
Sure, I think this one's on seasonal trends, and this is a pretty obvious thing. There are a bunch of holidays that come around, you know when they're coming every year: Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, Halloween. But you know, there are some other things too that always happen that you can try and stay on top of, whether it's baseball playoffs, other sporting events that you always know there's going to be a Super Bowl happening, and these things happen every single year. Back to school, fall fashions, things like that. And so you can really take advantage of these. You know they're coming, and it's pretty easy to prepare content and sort of, you know, look around and see what's going to be hot for this particular season, so you can jump on the seasonal trends pretty early.
Right. Another thing to do, especially for those of you who are affiliates, publishers, you know, partnering up with advertisers, also to talk to your merchant or your advertiser about what kinds of activities spawn buying. So a good example, one of our clients is Discount Tire, and I was surprised to discover, well, like, why is there suddenly this peak in terms of buying? It turns out that, you know, it's a seasonal trend that as you go into winter, you swap out your tires, right? For those of you who live in cold weather, you might understand that. I'm from Southern California, so that was news to me. But obviously, that kind of dialogue is really helpful.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
That's a great point. Talk to the merchant and the affiliate manager, but even better, if they're not doing so, see if you can get communication with their buyers.
Yeah.
You know, the people in the companies who are keeping a close eye on what's going on, stocking products, especially in the seasonal businesses, months and months and months in advance, and they can tip you off to the types of things you should be preparing for, setting up the sites to be ready to take advantage of these trends.
Right. Good point.
I actually had an affiliate that I used to work with, and when he was getting ready to push offers, he would actually reach out to everyone on an email list, and he would say, you know, for the holidays, we want to send something to our followers or promote something specifically, and we're going to do it by this day. And if you want to push those offers to us, please respond to us. And it kind of gives people an incentive to have something to you by a certain date, so when you want to have certain holiday offers on your site, you can have that sent to you.
All right. Good. Steph, you want to take the next one? Historical dates.
Actually, no, I'm going to skip historical dates. That's not my forte.
Scott Jangro, historical dates for 25. Yeah. Somebody didn't study her history lessons. Scott, you want to think about this and how that affects affiliate marketing?
It, you know, when you talk about, you know, these come in with, you know, there's a lot of pop culture here. One of the big things that we do is costumes. So we look at you know, events that happen and events that happen to people in particular. One that comes to mind when you talk about famous people dying. You know, Michael Jackson's death was a tragedy, but from a marketing standpoint, it was huge. And that Halloween after that was the number one costume. So we were ready. You know, we saw that and got ready for that and made sure we had some good content in place, because that's what we knew that's what people were going to be going after. So keeping an eye on things that happen, even though they're usually or maybe tragic,
Right.
You know, they do tend to generate a lot of activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year there was a big interest in John Lennon because there was a documentary. It would have been, his 70th birthday. So there was a big research. So if you knew that was coming up, then there's a big resurgence in interest in the Beatles, in other albums, in movies about him, T-shirts, posters, all kinds of things you can get on top of that. And there's a whole bunch of really famous movies that might, if you keep track of them, that might be marking a 20th or 25th anniversary of their release. And so that's a good way to stay on top of a big trend that can be coming up.
Right, so you're going to draft off from all the media attention that's going to happen and occur as a result of that milestone date, right? So you know then that at the 25th anniversary of the release of that movie, there's going to be other people that are out there talking about it. It increases the awareness, and so looking at ways that you can track that. So the Michael Jackson is a good example. Is okay, he would be 50 that year. He would be 60 this year if he were still alive.
Yeah, we leveraged the Michael Jackson thing in a lot of ways, and we engaged our community on the subject, and we put up a poll, asked if it's cool or not to dress up as Michael Jackson for Halloween, and we got a lot of activity around that, and got some attention and some links out of that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And on the point about movies, sometimes it's news events that happen, and you're just got to keep track of current events. But other things like movie releases is something that's very planned out and scheduled in advance. And if you're set up to be watching as early as possible when these things are coming, you can tell there's information out there about what movies are going to come out this year.
Yeah.
That was available last year, and getting ready for that is something we do constantly.
And I was going to say, like, a lot of people are anticipating the Smurfs movie is coming out, and so there's. If you know that something like that is coming out, it's probably likely to be a big trend with people. So you can also look back and see, like, what are some of the existing products that might fit into what you're doing that you could sell prior to the movie. And even if the movie ends up being a big bust or whatever, you still have been able to rely on what's previously out there. So a lot of these things are trends that you can plan way in advance for, that it's not like you're going to just get hit with it. There are some things that are like that, news events that you want to jump on and take advantage of right away, but you can do a lot of upfront planning for things.
Yeah, and the other thing is let's say you didn't predict a news event along those lines. You can look at historical dates as 6 months. You put a tickler 6 months from now. We're going to look back and see where those same people that we saw in the news, where are they today, what's happening, or 5 years from now. So a good example, September, obviously, it'll be the 10-year anniversary of September 11th. And there's a lot of different angles that you could do. It's going to have a lot of awareness in the media, but really it's how can I fit into that now? So that's the point, being able to forecast that, but also for yourself, start to develop systems in place that, okay, so 6 months from now, what was happening today, and what can we go back and reflect back on? So that becomes an interesting way. So it's a date-driven type of approach. So this has already started to pop into, not to make a joke, but I bet, I'm just guessing right now based on the huge smile and the leaning forward that Steph wants to take this question.
Okay, yes, Justin Bieber. I don't know if does anyone here have Bieber fever? Anybody?
No, no, we do not.
Basically, he's been a huge icon in pop culture, and he pretty much dominates even when it comes on Twitter to trending topics. He's almost up there all the time. And one good way to monitor and see what kind of topics or people are really popular right now is on Twitter, just by monitoring the trending topics, which is categorized through a hashtag, which is the £, and then the name of whatever is going on right now. Just like during Affiliate Summit, everyone right now is tweeting with ASW11, and you can see what's going on and what people are saying about that. So Twitter is one of the main places to view that. And then you can also try to follow some industry leaders that are in pop culture, one of them being people like Perez Hilton and TMZ, and those are kind of the people that have breaking news when it comes to pop culture. Okay,
so those are the types of trends or patterns that we can see. And another one, I guess we kind of already covered this as far as the in the news piece of it goes, the headline type things. Within that as well, one of the things that you hear a lot when you think about pop culture, you hear a lot about celebrities, right? But there are other, there's a subset within this. So you can find niches within topics where there are people in the news that have nothing to do with, entertainment or celebrity news. So people that are in the news right now, personalities that are in the news right now. Some are good, some are bad. So to Steph's point, one of the things you can do is you can look at for for these types of trending topics, but you go just listen in around yourselves and what are the conversations that people have started to ask you about. I mean, I got a lot of questions about the WikiLeaks, like just randomly from people who I've never, known it that are not industry folks. And I was like, wow, this has really got, a lot of attention and the trend there. And it leads to those other additional conversations. So, okay, let's talk about fads. Lisa.
Well, I mean, I think these are the kinds of things that you probably can't predict. There are more things that come up and you need to jump on them quickly if they're appropriate for what you're doing. And they're probably sites or things that you would incorporate that would be pretty short-lived.
Correct.
So you're not going to devote a huge amount of attention to them. But they're definitely things that people are going to be searching for, and that if you can find a way to capitalize on them. So the thing about all of these things, I mean, maybe Zuzu Pets isn't appropriate for whatever it is your site is focused on, but I come from a journalism background, so what you do as a journalist is you take everything in and you say, how does this apply to me? So if you think about like your local news, if there is an earthquake in a foreign country, they're probably going to report on that, but their angle is going to be there were 12 Bay Area residents that were involved in that earthquake, or that couldn't get home, or that were attempting to adopt children in that country and now can't get them. So everything is about how can you take something that's popular and spin it so that it's appropriate to what you do. And I think if you think hard enough, you'll probably come up with an angle that won't seem like it's a really forced fit.
Exactly.
Yeah, something like silly bands, probably not something you can sell and make a lot of money directly from a revenue share standpoint, but there's lots of related things you could do if you had a mom site or sites like that. There's lots of topics about that, like how to get your 2-year-old to stop wearing them. It's a problem we have at home. And health and safety issues with things like that. There's lots of kind of topics around these fads that you can jump on and probably have a longer life than the actual fad itself.
I'm curious to see who in here actually spent their money on silly bands. Raise your hand. Who in here actually wore silly bands? Raise your hand. Yeah, I got over that, but it happened. I did wear them for a few months. Even if you can't sell the silly bands on your site, if you're talking about it, just like he said, like an article on how to get your kids not to wear the silly bands, you can actually drive some good traffic to your site and then direct them to other products that are still relevant to that audience.
Another thing to think about, and this is back to Lisa's point about trying to figure out about spin, right? So we can all look back in our childhoods, and everybody had these fads that occurred, and they were just huge, and they kind of consumed your life when you were a little kid. Whether it was, baseball cards for some people, and the what were those other pets that everybody likes? The little,
Babies?
oh yeah, Beanie Babies. There was another one. Those cards that all those little kids played. Pokemon, that's what I was thinking of. Anyway, so you have all these different types of situations, right? So maybe you have a collectible site. Maybe you're not going to make money. There's not a lot of profit for the silly bands. Write an article about how you are going to store all of those silly bands and all the different kinds of them, because 20 years from now, they'll actually have 10 times more value because people will look back with nostalgia and think, oh, this is a great thing. So how not to wear them for parents, how to leverage this in the future. Instead of the coin collection, it's your silly bands collection. I mean, get creative in terms of like, where did you see money-making opportunities in the past, and is this going to be appropriate to that?
There's also nothing wrong with turning it the opposite way and using satire. So you don't always have to, you're not going to make any money with silly bands, but there's no reason that you couldn't have something that says like, our silly band's the new pet rock, and have some kind of, one-hit wonder type thing where you may actually have a market for people that are looking have the nostalgia factor and looking for old products and saying like, oh, I totally forgot about that, and actually want to purchase them.
Yeah, and then, with Photoshop today, you talk about satire, you can create like somebody's house that's completely decorated and overspilling with silly bands, and it could be a farce, but it'll get some fair amount of traffic and hits and, creates the viral effect. And then it's the additional adjacent advertising that you're doing that actually gets making the money. So
Yeah,
these are just ideas.
There's a lot of energy expended around the kind of the negative side of the haters. Spend a lot more time writing about and linking to a lot of these topics than the people who actually like them. Twitter, for example, it's a fad, and
Twitter is not a fad. Scott was kidding.
I'm kidding. But as an example of that, when it first came out, we were all kind of getting a feel for it and that sort of thing. I wrote a blog post, Why I Hate Twitter, and
That got me riled up.
this is before you were born. It was, I ranked #1 for I Hate Twitter. Maybe I still do, I don't know. But, that
On
blog,
Twitter? Yeah.
on Google. And so I got
On
a
Google.
lot of traffic of, people are typing in I hate Twitter into Google. I don't know who they think they're telling, but they're just complaining to anyone that will listen. And then they find me and I get a bunch of comments, a lot of traffic for just stuff like that.
Yep. So I think it's your turn, Scott. The next bullet point here is to talk about the types of trend in the sense of general, right? So we've got, design, art symbols.
Yeah, I mean, anything can be looked at as a trend, and so I think we'll get into this a little more in a bit when we talk about searching for stuff. But
Spotting, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's like an overall mood. People will notice that there's a return to nostalgia, and there's a lot of ways, depending on your site, that you can, and what you're selling, that you can promote that nostalgic feeling. There's also things like that appear in decor, whether one day everything is certain geometric shapes or colors that are popular, and there's easy ways to sort of promote those products. So I think that you can look for general trends and then apply them to what you have.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many areas, you think about going up to the bar, what's the latest trend in the drinks that people are ordering? I mean, there's every kind of martini, right? And so what's the fruit that's being in there? I mean, I think it's pomegranate right now, and there's one other one. Anyway, you'll see all of a sudden that there starts to be this pattern of, we talk about color palettes within that, and you end up watching a movie from a certain era, and you know for sure that it's that year because of the hairstyles, but also because of the colors in the outfits, or you can look at a set and you can see the types of furniture that is being used to decorate that. So
Yeah, I mean, a big trend, people were crazy about Mad Men, and then suddenly there was this return to this sort of the culture of the 60s and 60s style dresses and the drinks that were popular back then, and this furniture and everything. So if you pay attention to television and movies, music, things that are going on, it's easy to sort of jump on that, and you're not necessarily like trying to sell the Mad Men DVDs, but it's like, how can I capitalize on this? Well, maybe I'm going to start selling dresses that have this retro flair to them.
Right. So the takeaway message, obviously, that we're trying to point out to you here is it doesn't have to just be about pop culture or entertainment or celebrity news, right? That's not the point of a trend. The trend can be in a lot of different areas. So I think that's the main point. So looking at ways that we can spot trends. Steph, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so basically a good way to spot trends is to follow industry leaders. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's pop culture, but if you're focusing on pop culture, nowadays celebrities are actually taking to Twitter to break news themselves. So instead of having the media find something out, they might actually tell you first. So one thing you might want to do is start following key people there. But using affiliate marketing as an example, if you wanted to follow industry leaders, one good way would be to maybe follow all the speakers that were going to be on Twitter, that were going to be speaking at Affiliate Summit, and maybe take to Sean Collins's blog and Missy Ward and other people that are innovators and start following them so you can get the news first. Another good way that's up there is actually crowdsourcing. And that is, now, if you have something that you think might be a trend, or you want to find out, say, what the top Halloween costume might be, asking your audience and kind of getting interactive with them is a good way. So you can take on Facebook or on Twitter and ask them, what are you going to be this year for Halloween? And I did that this year, and I noticed, there was a lot of Jersey Shore costumes going on. And that was a good way to see, just by talking to the people that are in your audience, to see what's trending with them.
Yeah. And Scott, obviously.
Yeah, on that subject, Halloween's near and dear to my heart. But we watch Twitter and Facebook and engage with the audiences there, but also on our own sites where we have communities, we get them to basically tell us what the trends are by watching what they search for, watching what they talk about, keeping an eye on what the types of things that they're sharing with each other on our sites, and we can definitely pick up trends in fashion or in any of the areas that we have communities.
I come from a journalism background. I'm crazy about all kinds of media, and so I know people think magazines are dead, but I still get subscriptions to over 50 different magazines in a variety of different genres, and I actually read all of them. And I think that by reading all of them, it's, you sort of get this sense, like if you get 3 different magazines and suddenly no one's talking about cupcakes, but everyone's talking about pies, you're like, okay, maybe pie's a new big thing, or canning of vegetables is going to be a huge thing. And what some of those things individually, while in some way, if you have something related to cooking, you might think, okay, pies impacts me, but maybe most of you are like, well, how does knowing that pies is a big thing impact me? Well, it may mean that if there's canning and there's pies and the economic conditions are still a little tough, that there's a return to people trying to stretch their dollar to cook at home. And you may be able to say, well, how can I take advantage of that movement among people? So maybe I'm selling cookware, or maybe I need to, provide people with more informational things about recycling and reusing and repurposing things, because these are the types of things that are coming up. And you can probably make that. It seems like a little bit of a leap, but you can probably make that just from following some of these other trends and extrapolating that a little bit.
Yeah, and interesting, this is pretty anecdotal, but I've noticed that the people who do a good job of spotting trends are very curious people. And one of the things they do a lot of is ask questions. So, one great thing that everyone's pointing out here is, okay, here's information that's being presented to me, and do I notice a pattern? But also try to find, if you can start asking questions. I have, nieces and nephews. I ask them a lot of questions, and I tend to, and I do it really for very selfish reasons. I just want to be a cool auntie, right? So I want to know, like I knew about Silly Bounds way long time ago, and I was like, what are you wearing on your wrist, right? But I ask questions. I ask questions of teenagers. I ask questions of people that I meet that I don't know, somewhat of conversational, but it's also because I'm very curious. What is that pattern that we're starting to see? So, think about your personal experience, but engage with them as much as possible. I think that's to the point too of the crowdsourcing. It allows you to have that interaction. Scott mentioned about doing surveys, right? So why are surveys so critical? And they're easy to do on your sites and your blogs is because you're starting to see, do I see a pattern in the response? Is everybody jumping onto this one topic and they have an opinion about it? And it is that level of activity that becomes really important for you when you start looking at your money making that's going on. So
I was just going to say that just at lunch today, I was having a conversation with somebody. I don't know if this person's in the room or not, but they were talking about they're beginning to develop a bunch of videos about vegan cooking, and their whole thing is all about promoting veganism. And I was asking them who they were targeting these at, and I'm older, and if I decided to become a vegan, I already have cooking experience, but there are quite a few people that now are being more exposed to information about food at a younger age. People are also somewhat curious and a little rebellious. And I was saying, what about videos, for instructional videos for 14 or 15-year-old kids that have decided, like, I'm going to be a vegan?
Yeah.
They've never had any cooking experience at all. So why not provide them with instructional information? And so you can look at things, just sort of train yourself to look at things a little bit differently and say, like, how could this possibly, this wasn't something this woman had thought of, like,
Right.
maybe I could gear this towards this segment of people, and I think that could be lucrative for her.
Right. And what that's doing too is finding the niche within that broader topic, right? So it's important to find your little spot in that world, right? And that's a perfect example of how you do it.
Hey, Lisa.
Yep.
We didn't touch on, there's one thing on there.
Oh,
The search
what?
stuff.
I skipped search?
Yeah, you went to me and I talked about something else, not your fault. There's a gold mine of information in tools like Google provides and other websites provide services like Zeitgeists and hot topics and things, and people love to write about that stuff. But Google itself has some amazing tools available to pick up on trends. Google Trends, it's called. If you haven't seen it, I think it's google.com/trends. Go there. They highlight what's hot right now in search, and it's just great to go there like every day and just see what's going on. And it's usually stuff that you can't do much with necessarily, but there's sometimes nuggets in there. And then once you go there, you can drill down into those topics, start to drill into a particular keyword. Use Google Insights is another tool that Google provides, which shows trend lines of popularity over time of search terms. So you can start to get a feel for the types of things that are being talked about. And so identifying what's hot like right now and I think they have different ratings on how hot things are. Volcanic is the top,
Yeah.
and things like that. And actually on Trends, there's a brand new feature which is Hot Topics. So they're also getting into some real-time reporting of information that they're getting off of Twitter and that sort of thing too.
They can crush Twitter. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
And but those are some great tools and using Google Suggest. So once you start to drill down, you can start to get a feel for what keywords people are looking for, what people are asking questions about or thinking about when they're online searching. Google's very nice that they share a lot about what people are searching for.
Yeah. One thing too, when you think about for spotting of trends, why is there anybody in the audience here that is either from an agency or is from the advertiser side? Right? Anybody? Okay. So another thing that's important. So you think about looking for trends so that you can turn around and monetize it is also looking at trends for partners that you can find. So you can use those exact same tools that Scott just talked about. Then you go in and you get search results to see who already has great traffic for that topic, right? And they already maybe have your audience. Now you have the ability to do that outreach, and then you can go back to your client or to your boss or what have you and say, I've noticed this seems to be a trend, and here are some great partners that can send us some traffic. Let's test this out and see. So it's not only important to be able to facilitate this, use this information for affiliates, but also for the advertiser and the agency side as well. Okay, can I go forward now?
Please.
Okay. All right, so probably the thing that is most important and near and dear to all of our hearts is the actual monetization of that. Obviously the content, the master of content in this particular panel right here is Ms. Picarille, so Mrs. Picarille, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that content is just so important, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, write all of it yourself. There's so many different ways to get content and different ways to think about content. It could be photos, it can be videos. You can write a paragraph summarizing a YouTube video and link to it, and that can still be content. There's, just think about what your audience is going to be looking for and searching for, and how it's not about you, it's what they want and how you can provide that to them. And I was on a panel yesterday about pop culture, and someone brought up a really great point. Don't always use the product name of something if people call it something else. I think it was Trisha Meyer from Sunshine Reward said, if something is has an official name, but everybody calls it the Twilight Snuggie. Don't call it by its official name. Call it so that people will recognize it. But I just think that you really need to build up content around this, and it's not that difficult to create a body of content around these trends. And you can do it pretty quickly.
So, then, okay, so you've developed this content, obviously, then where do you go to find the offers?
Right. Well, I actually wanted to touch on what to do with social media when you find the offer. So, Scotty, do you want to talk about the offer?
Scotty.
Okay, she's just on an agenda all her own, and all right.
I usually start with the content, and then once you start to see that there's some traffic there, you figure out what it is that people are looking for, and then you go off hunting for affiliate programs for that stuff, or related topics. It doesn't even have to be specifically a product, but if you're lucky and there is a specific product, go find the affiliate program for that, or someone who offers something related to it to offer up either that thing or something related. But it's a matter of, at that point, searching for the offer that in any of the networks, or in Google for those products.
Yep.
Scott, are you just like hitting your database for the most part, or are you actually going out and seeking new offers?
So the question was whether or not Scott was going to his database already, because you aggregate a lot of those offers and hitting that, or are you actively going out and trying to essentially create offers, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, and he was in the session yesterday about data feeds, which is why he knows that I have a big database of product data. And yes, and a lot of it goes there. And that kind of gets toward the last part, which is how to get ranked for trends. They're related. It's to kind of set yourself up to be able to react to trends when they happen. So it's really, really hard to just see a trend that's gone volcanic and do something quickly enough for it to be impactful. Instead, what you need to be able to do is have yourself set up with a platform to talk about that thing, something that's well established, something that's ready to go, whether that's a big product database, whether that's relationship with a ton of networks and merchants where you can find offers for these things, get relationships where you can go and ask somebody, what do I do with this? And somebody who's big on the offer side, I might not know what all the offers are out there, but I know some people that do. Go talk to them. They're more than happy to give you their offers. But to be ready, to be able to do something with this information, with a website that's already well established, that's got some authority in a particular topic. Hopefully, it's going to match the trend that you're looking at. That's really a great way to be able to capitalize on trends when they happen.
Yeah, another point to that too is making in this case, so you own a media property, so you basically make available a way to be reached, because there's a lot of folks with offers and advertisers that are actively seeking to work with you. And in fact, that's a trend in itself, right? Trying to find these direct relationships and not always relying upon the aggregators of those offers and relying upon that. And then the other thing is Scott speaking to the really large scale, but also if you're newbie, kind of smaller, so you find that you have this opportunity where, I've got pretty decent traffic, and, I go into the affiliate networks and, sometimes they approve me and sometimes they don't, but I'm a little guy, right? So who cares? But actually, a lot of times you can just pick up the phone literally and call into a company that you think has a product that you'd like to promote, and get pushed over to the right person in the organization and strike up a conversation. They'll usually tell you either, hey, yeah, go into my affiliate program, or maybe because of the type of nature it is, maybe they'll just work with you on a direct referral basis. So don't be afraid to do that as well. And as you get better and better at it, you'll actually negotiate better once you're in the network environment as well. So. All right, I know you're you're sitting there eager. You're sitting there
now,
eager.
Once you found your offer and you found something that's trending that you really want to push, and you have your great content, then you can use social media as a tool. But how do you really get eyeballs, and how do you really get people looking at that is, besides just using the hashtag, you can take it a step further. And Twitter has something in beta right now. But if you go to business.twitter.com, they have something called promoted tweets. And what that does is you can actually purchase for a specific amount of time a hashtag that you want, that you're following. So if you get a really good audience, or you want to pick a certain hashtag, you can promote your tweets, and that always puts you at the top of the list. It goes the same as a regular tweet that you would send out, and then at the bottom it just says it's promoted. But it's a great way to get a ton of followers, and it's a great way to have a really targeted audience and to be able to push that out to the right people.
There you go. So this is on the search piece of it.
Oh, good. Yeah, so there's a couple of examples of the stuff I was talking about. This is a picture of Google Trends. You can see here, this was from the week before Christmas. It's mostly a bunch of stuff like, if I remember correctly, no Sean Marino, sports references, things that are, celebrities, that sort of thing. But in there, in this particular day, looking at stuff that there might be an opportunity, I saw that there was trending topic around that Hyundai Equus car. So digging a little deeper in there, you can click on that, see what that's about, start to see what's next, what do we got? And putting that same sort of thing into Google Insights, you can see what's going on traffic-wise on Google for that. You can put in multiple search terms, so you might, to get a feel for how important this term is and how it's trending and growing, put in something that's much more established, like maybe Ford Focus in this case, or, and watch how those lines match up, and you can see
Put them over top of each other.
you can
Yeah.
run on top of each other and see what kind of opportunities there are on the keywords that you're searching for. Taking it a step further, you can go into, I don't think there's a screenshot of that, but you type that into Google itself, look down the bottom of the page, see what kind of things people are searching for around that search term, dig a little deeper with the long tail on keywords, and really get a good feel for what people are searching for and looking for related to that particular car. And what I was talking about before, about setting yourself up to be able to capitalize on that, yeah, you could buy a domain of that particular keyword and start from scratch with a small site, which is which can be a tough road to hoe. But what I said before about having yourself set up, so not only is there a particular trend about this particular car, but there's a bigger trend. If this car is popular today, next month it's going to be another car that competes with that, and it goes on and on and on. So you set yourself up to be able to capitalize on these car trends, for example, build have an electric car site or some kind of car.
Right, so the important thing is not to always take things so literally. It's not like you have to have a site devoted to this specific car, but the bigger trend is there's other manufacturers that are going to be doing this, so maybe having information about electric cars versus this, these hybrid cars versus something else, or having a video or promote or showing safety for these cars or whatever it is. Like, you don't have to take it all so literally.
Right. So chasing the big trend itself can be tiring, but to look at the bigger picture is definitely a good way to go.
Okay, good. Did I have a question over there or no? No?
Just what are those numbers on the right hand lead? Are those 100,000 hits or?
They don't.
So let me just repeat the question really quick. So he's asking, what do the numbers on the right-hand side, the right side there mean, Scott?
Google's nice, but they're not that nice. They don't tell you exactly what the searches are for that. It's more of a relative scale, which is why it helps to put another term on there that might be super popular, and you can compare them. But it's really just looking relatively at things. So you can see that it's gone from really flat line through the roof. That's telling you something. Comparing it to something else also tells you something. So you can. It's more relative.
Yeah, and if you have something that's like a universally common, constant, trending, term that's trended, you can use that also to get it in relation to the rest of that as well. So not just your competitor, but something like whatever his name is, Bieber. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so one of the questions too might be, what might be hot in 2011 and worth pursuing? So do you guys all know about the double rainbow? Do you all remember about the double rainbow, right? Is a comedic thing that got a lot of attention because a video on YouTube with this guy that was from Santa Cruz and clearly enjoying life. And he got super excited about a rainbow, and then it turned out to be a double rainbow. And so the guy, I think he has a publicist now. So what's going to be that comedic, sort of, it's really a fad more than it is a trend, but what's going to happen? Very recently, there's a show similar to Cops. is like where they bust people for, drunk driving, where this lady was so hammered and her expression that she used in the video was Donkadoo-ball. Is that going to take off and people are going to start using that or not? We talked already about the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Looking at things like in 2011, what kind of things are happening in food trends, right? So that's not pop culture per se. There's celebrities might be the ones that are referencing that or the spokesperson for it. So, where might that be? Can anybody tell us why you think that Brazil might be on there? Yeah, exactly. So not that it's coming in 2011, but the next World Cup will be there. There's a Olympics coming up in that area. If you look at just in travel right now, you're starting to see that this is the new hotspot destination that seems to start getting hyped. And so that might become a trend, right?
And also, when things happen, like you're talking about this in travel, but once people get exposed to this, then suddenly it's like, is Brazilian food going to be popular? Is
Exactly.
cookware that has a Brazilian flair or home decor that has that sort of Brazilian feel going to also be popular? So it's not just traveling to Brazil.
That's right. That's right. So if you have a shoe site and you're promoting shoes and you've got a Brazilian personality that is getting photographed a fair amount and you can point out the shoes that they're wearing and then you can feature them. So you're a shoe site. How is this going to relate? Well, that could be that connection for you. Everything mobile. I mean, you can't get away from it, right? What does that mean? Apps, is that the new trend in business, right? Everybody, we talked about social media. I mean, first it was search and you see the social media. Is that next thing going to be related to mobile marketing? And then movie sequels, we already talked about that. So do you guys have ideas, right? You could think about things that might be coming up where you start to spot that trend and whether or not it's worth pursuing. So that's what we're encouraging all of you to do, is to look to that and then go back through these processes that we just described, start investigating, start looking at, let's go back to Brazil, right? And what are the things that we can see, certain keywords, drinks that are Brazilian drinks, right? And those keywords and using search and, looking at content and finding out, okay, I am a cooking site. How can I put those two things together, right? So here's our contact information, and I'm hoping if I go to the next page, we'll actually see any questions that you might have put through. Uh-oh, it's a poll data. Does that tell us whether we're doing a good job right now in real time? It works.
It works.
So you have no questions for us. We've done such a stellar job of answering them all and anticipating everything you could be thinking of. Not.
How much time and effort you put into trends versus maybe more of your core business?
That's a great question. So he asked how much of their time do they put into trends versus their core business or the static part of it that's always there. So you guys want to start with that? Steph?
Well, social media is my business, so I put 100% of my time into it. But I would really say, since there's so many different things going on, to try to really focus on a specific niche and zone in on that, because there's always going to be a ton of trends going on. So say you do something with wine. If you really target, say, Riesling, and then you go into that and you start building an audience of those people and you start following what they're saying and you build like a community, like Scott has, a shoe site that has a community, and that does have a lot of celebrity blogs and celebrity gossip and things like that are going on. You really need to pick and choose so that you don't end up spending your whole day doing it.
I would say that if you're dealing with retail products, so it's a B2C type thing, that a good portion of your time should be spent on spotting trends, because that's what consumers are looking for. They're looking for the newest, hottest thing to buy. I mean, I don't think, you want to devote all your efforts to it, but you certainly want to have the latest and be on top of things. But if you're in a B2B business, you want to know what trends are going on in your industry, but I don't think you're going to focus quite so much because people don't move as fast and make those decisions as quickly to spend that kind of money. So,
yeah, another thing I want to add is, a lot of these are free tools and they are really time consuming. So one thing you can do, as Scott was saying, Google Trends is a good thing to look at. I was saying Twitter trends are good to look at. So a good way to start your morning is to wake up and just take a quick look at the trends, and if there's something relevant to you, then dedicate a little more time to that. Another thing I do, since I don't have time to go check all throughout the day, is I have specific people that I think are industry leaders sent to my phone as a text message, and then if I see, I'll take a glance at my text messages and I'll see if they're all discussing the same thing, then I'll go in and join the conversation. If not, I won't waste my time. And I think text messages are really good with CNN alerts, and that's a good way to get breaking news, and it's sent right to your phone. You can just glance at it real fast and then go on with your day.
And hopefully, a trend that you're focusing on is something that you're truly interested in. So it's really no effort at all, and you're just keeping up, reading things, subscribing to blogs, keeping an eye on trends on a day-to-day basis. But one of our sites is a women's shoe site, not a particular interest of mine or my business partner. So what do? Well, we have a community manager, a woman who is obsessed with shoes, and she loves doing it. So she keeps on top of these things. So if at all possible, have you or somebody involved who is hopefully obsessed with this particular thing, and it comes pretty much for free. In this case, this woman this is what she does constantly. She's a shoe blogger. She's involved in our site. She lives in New York. She goes to Fashion Week. She goes to the shows like that, and she's in touch with designers, and she gets things pushed to her as well as her activities looking.
So before I jump to these other questions, one other comment that I would make about that too is you really have to look at what your business model is. So being suddenly responsive to either a trend or even worse, a fad, it's being able to recognize how quickly can I respond. So if you were constantly trying to build sites and doing this based on all these different trends, that's a lot of work. You might not be able to make that a high percentage of your business. So you want something that's fairly sustainable and consistent as that key piece of it. So if you have content development that you're doing and you've got a blog site, then you're really in a position where you could probably quickly crank out some content related to that particular trend or topic. But if you're actually building websites and really trying to get into product promotion, that might be a little bit harder. So you have to come up with a different business model before you can spend that much time on it. That'd be my other comment. Okay, so before we lose the first one, so you guys can all read this, but I'll do it out loud anyways. Would you recommend having a HTML template or WordPress ready, using it over and over to get the niche sites up fast? So that was a little bit related to what I was just talking about. So Scott, I think you're probably the best one to answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Having whatever you can do to make things happen quickly as possible is ideal, and WordPress and templates and having things ready to go. The less time you have to spend ramping up to get to the meat of it, the better. We've gone to the lengths of developing our own platform where we can quickly develop a niche-related website. So this shoe site I talk about and the costume site I talk about are built on a proprietary platform that we have that enables us to quickly develop content, pull in product information, have this community ready to go. The technology's done, and so when we want to act on something, it's a matter of we're hitting the ground running.
So I think really at the heart of that question is the automation and how that affects it. But Lisa, when it comes to content itself, how much can you templatize or repeat that same process in order to develop content quickly?
I think you can do that a lot. I mean, when I worked at a lot of the big online news tech websites for Wired.com and for TechWeb and Tech TV, we had templates for shows. We knew we were going to cover particular shows every year, and so we would have these templates ready, and it was just, so when the show came, we were all ready. We had content in there, and then we were ready to populate it with things that happened at the show. And I think you can apply the same kind of thing here. You've got it ready. You have a space developed where you're going to have a photo of maybe what this is, some of the hot products. I mean, there's a lot that can be done up front and be used over and over again. And I'm sure that you probably are going to find that some content you already have is relatable to the new trend, and you can populate it with that already in anticipation.
Yep, good. Okay, so we're getting below the fold here, and I have no idea how to. Oh, okay. What do you know?
There's also someone raising their hand.
Oh, what? Oh, ooh. Damn it. All right, hold on one second, let's see if I can get it back. No. Okay, whoever, you got your hand raised. Why don't you ask that question while I try to figure this out?
How important are unique URLs to tie into these Trendspotting websites? Are you publish them under your existing URLs that are a blog?
So the question was how important are unique URLs for getting, for the content itself, and also, I assume, to get visibility for the trend?
From an SEO standpoint, I think there's no doubt that having keyword domains for specific topics is a benefit. Any search on a particular topic you do, it actually drives me crazy, the types of sites that appear with their keyword domains. And on the costume side, for example, we're getting our asses kicked by people with keyword domains where we have one domain. So we do well and they do well, and they both work. If you are, I like to not have to buy a domain for every keyword I want to target, but it's certainly a successful way to go.
Yeah, so if there's something that you're really passionate about, then spend some time in GoDaddy. Or if I ever get an idea, I just go in and register some names off the spot, because if you don't do it, someone else is going to take it for sure. So try to do that ahead of time and not at the last minute.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about a few of these. One of these questions here is, what are the top tools, free and or paid, that you use to monitor and keep track of trends? I know they've been mentioned, but let's do a quick run through on that.
A lot of the tools we were mentioning are pretty much free tools. Scott mentioned Google Trends and Google Insights. I was mentioning using tools on Twitter. Basically just by following the trending topics that's available to you when you log into the account. But paid tools, one I mentioned was the promoted tweets that's now in beta. But if you go to business.twitter.com, it'll let you sign up and then they'll send you some information. And you would basically pay for the amount of time and for the kind of hashtag that you would want to promote through Twitter.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I wasn't
Scott?
holding back. Those were, the Google stuff, and it's pretty much what we focus on. We don't use any paid tools or specific stuff, so we just try to keep an eye on where things are at.
The other thing might be also, if you have search.
You're getting asked out in public, so.
If you have.
That's not us, Lise.
All right. The other thing is, if you have search on your own site, to make sure that you take a good look at what people are searching for, because what you may find is what you don't have is something that you should have, and take a look at your own analytics, like where things are coming from. And I think those can also be helpful in helping you determine some of the trends.
Right, because you may not realize. So other than Steph getting asked out, industry blogs, newsletters are good too. I mean, I think you just answered the question about, can you recommend good tools for finding trending Twitter hashtags? And I think to Scott's point earlier about using, finding information about what's trending in one area and then going back over and using the tools in the other social media set. You can do the same thing with Facebook, right? Being connected to a lot of people and seeing what patterns that you're recognizing within that, and then going and researching is usually a pretty good idea. All right, do we have any other questions? How do we do for time? I think we're right up against our deadline. Yes. We want to thank you all, and most important, please help the team at Affiliate Summit by completing your survey question cards and handing them out on your way out. It's really important for us to obviously continue to bring good content, and we appreciate all that feedback. Be nice, but please fill them out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Who asked that question?
That's why we shouldn't be doing it this way.
Yeah, that's dangerous.